surrounds and nurtures those entrepreneurs. So thank you for your insights there. And I'm going to move on now with the program to Julie Lenzer. And Julie, I believe that you're on board.
I am.
Okay, hello, and it's good to see you. Julie's another longtime associate of mine and colleague. Julie was the first, I believe you launched the U.S. Department of Commerce Economic Development Administration Office of Innovation.
Yeah, I didn't launch the office, but I launched our large grant program, the Regional Innovation Strategies.
That's right, the RIS, which lives and breathes to this day. So congratulations for that. And I was happy to learn that you were at the University of Maryland in charge of the Office of Innovation and successful there too. So we'd like to learn from you. So I'm going to turn the screen over to you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to talk a little bit about my experience as building an ecosystem builder. I'm also an entrepreneur. So I built a company many years ago that provided software for manufacturing companies. So I am not an academic. I am a tried and true entrepreneur. I also, as was mentioned, I was a member of the Obama administration as the director of the Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and launched a grant program across the country where in the 2.5 years that I was there, we put out $40 million US into communities across the country, including the water cluster in Milwaukee, which I think was just mentioned. And that program has continued to grow since I left there at the change of the administration, and has been responsible for creating over 8,000 jobs and spurring over $1 billion in investment into startups. And so it's something, it's much like my child. I'm very proud of it, but it was also put in good hands with the team that I left in charge. So what I'm going to talk about is my experience. I've had every role in the ecosystem, I think now, but talking about how ecosystems can really accelerate innovation. And I do this from the standpoint of academia, as my current role is the Chief Innovation Officer at the University of Maryland. And but I can also throw in other aspects. As I said, I have been involved, I think, in every aspect of the ecosystem. So really, what is, let me see if I can, there it is. What is an ecosystem? What does this word mean? And the definition that I like to use is that it's a dynamic, self-regulating network of many different types of actors. So one of the important points of words in this definition is that it is self-regulating. It is very difficult for any government or other entity to control what happens in an ecosystem. What we do instead is that we are creating the conditions that people and programs and places can come together to support the startup, the entrepreneurial community. And it is dynamic because it relies on a lot of different pieces. So it is always changing and almost like a living, breathing organism. When I was with the U.S. Department of Commerce, I created what we will call the hierarchy of needs in resilient ecosystems and for economies. And what it really says is from the bottom, you have to have things at the bottom to be able to work your way up to the top. So on the very bottom, you have to have basic infrastructure that supports the businesses. So transportation, access to reliable electricity and utilities. Those are really required if you want to build a physical place to support business. On top of that then is the technology infrastructure. So making sure that everybody has access to cellular service, wireless, and broadband. Because today, every business, even if it's a corner bakery, relies on technology in some way. And so, so looking at how your technology infrastructure supports your businesses is really important. Now, the business support, which is the next level, is around capital. What kind of capital is available to support your businesses? What policies are there? And we'll talk a little bit more about policies later. What types of programs are helping to accelerate or support these companies? And we'll talk about that as well. Engines of innovation are also really important because innovation is the driver of new businesses in many ways. Sometimes it's innovating around needs in the community. Universities are a great partner for this. We also have to have the right kinds of capital and policies to drive innovation. And then at the very top, the thing that you want to most strive for is this connected ecosystem. But in order to have all of that, you need everything else underneath it, at least to some degree. It doesn't all have to, it's not necessarily all serial. It can be done in parallel, but all are required to support the structure of a responsive and resilient ecosystem. There's been a couple of other speakers who've talked about the elements of an ecosystem. There are many drawings that you can find of what are the pieces. This is just one of them. But the point is that there's a lot of things that are required. Remember the very first slide, I had talked about the diverse and interconnected pieces. And so there's a lot of things that have to come together to make a healthy ecosystem. But the entrepreneur actually is the thing that needs to be at the center of it, because that's what we're really trying to support. And many times I see policies or regulatory frameworks, or even the universities or training programs that don't keep the entrepreneur in the center. And that's a really crucial part of that, is you have to understand that's your customer. How are you supporting them? And how are you helping them to be successful? So understanding the domain in a typical university, and again, this is some of this is from the university perspective, and hopefully how you can support your universities. Our typical university state is often decentralized and distributed. So our assets that we have for entrepreneurship, some of them, we have the Dingman Center for Entrepreneurship that's in the College of Business. We have MTech, which is in the College of Engineering. We have something called a Do-Good Accelerator, which is in our College of Public Policy. And then my office is in the Vice Presidents for Research, and also dotted line to the President or Chancellor of our university. And so these things are very distributed, and my job is to make them all work together a little bit better than just having each individual on an island. Many universities are often under-resourced as well. And the assets that we have, we don't really own them by the university. We're trying to play as part of the community. And there's also a question about what are the incentives for people to collaborate, something to think about. Ideally, though, you want things that are completely interconnected. And I put the picture of those interconnected nodes on the bottom. It's a little confusing because that's really what it's like, it's just a web of things that you want all working together organically. The idea that I have from my university is that we want to find where the gaps are and try to fill them. So what are the needs of the entrepreneurs and how can we fill those? And focusing on what are the win-win, where can we all benefit, right? It's not a win-lose situation. It's not the ecosystems that are successful view it as you've probably heard the term, in a rising tide, all boats rise. And it's the idea that as we work together, it benefits everyone. And that's why I say that I've seen in so many ecosystems that egos kill ecosystems. And so if you're worried about who gets credit or who's more important or who wins and who loses, you will not be able to support a healthy ecosystem, and the entrepreneurs and your economy will suffer as a result. So the keys that I find to accelerating impact from research are people, programs, and policies. And yes, that is me driving that little race car. It was actually really fun. I highly encourage it. It's a great way to blow off steam. So people, let's talk about people. So first, you need partners. You need internal and external partners. Who are the people who are filling the gaps in the resources that you don't have? You should be partnering with those folks to provide value all around. Educators and trainers. There's a lot of things that entrepreneurs need to learn. And I make the difference between educators and trainers because educators are generally focused on longer term value, especially to students. I think Lynn may have mentioned that many of the students might not have a business right away, but you're planting the seed of an entrepreneurial mindset. And the earlier you can do that, the better your outcomes for your general ecosystem and your entrepreneurial activity. Trainers are more focused on specific skills that you need. So getting trained in sales or in accounting specifically for your business. And that's why I make a distinction between the two, because both are really important. But I can't stress enough, as Lynn mentioned, educators should be starting with this entrepreneurial mindset very early and often. Mentors and advisors, these are people who are out in the business community, who have been in business and who can mentor or advise these startups on very specific tasks, like developing a marketing plan or advising them in how do you go to market? How do you build a team? How do you build a good relationship with a co-founder? Those are really important different topics that you should lean on your experienced folks in your community to come in and help your entrepreneurs. Funders, I think that's a given, being able to have access to capital for your entrepreneurs. But I will say the best type of capital for any company is a paying customer. So not every company should get external funding. And so you need to look at that. In the US, and I think this is one of the things we've probably exported, is Shark Tank. That I actually don't particularly like Shark Tank, because it puts the idea in every entrepreneur's head that they need to go pitch for investors. And that's not necessarily the case. And also Shark Tank tends to undervalue the companies. So that's the other problem that I have with it. But it's getting better. Mark Cuban brought a little bit more to that. But having customers, many companies would benefit from just really getting paying customers if they don't need a lot of capital to build their business. And then peers. Entrepreneurs are very social people. We like to connect with each other. We like to help each other. So making those opportunities for peers to connect is really important. Now, some of the challenges: how do you get people into your network? First, you have to find them. Going out into your community, looking at a university's alumni is a really rich place. There's an affinity. Many alumni want to give back to their community and to their institution. How do you keep them then? You have to make sure that there's some strong connection and that there's an alignment with what they're trying to do. Why are they there? And how are you meeting their needs? Making it focused on mentors first. And then for investors, they really want to see the deal flow and make sure that their interests are aligned, or grow your own investors out of your community. For customers, they're looking for innovation, talent, and oftentimes opportunities to train their own staff. Curation, transparency, sharing the what and who works. So sharing that across your ecosystem. Making sure there's accountability, true assistance, rather than just somebody trying to come and sell your entrepreneurs. And conflict is okay, you just have to manage it. Actually, I say I'm in the conflict creation business because I want to bring really smart people to help our entrepreneurs, and I want them to work together, and then I just have to figure out how to manage that. There's also a translation problem. Researchers and technicians and industry speak different languages. So you have to be able to help to translate that role. And you have to convince technologists that maybe they're not the best CEO. Also mitigating various friction points between government, academia, and the entrepreneurs is really important. For us, conflict of interest or use of university facilities is oftentimes a friction point that we have to help mitigate for our entrepreneurs. Programs leveraging university and others providing their strengths in education and training, access to mentor networks, providing contests and prizes to highlight role models. That's the real purpose of contests and prizes, is to really show off the great ideas in your community, and providing for productive collisions so that people have an opportunity that have like needs to connect with each other. That's what we call productive collisions. Oops, sorry. Supporting venture development, I see it in 3 phases. Exposing people to entrepreneurship, that should be a really big group of people, as many people as you can, as early as you can, exposing them to it, educating them on how to do it, and then curating and supporting those who are actually doing things. And that's how you get successful startups out of that. I want to talk a little bit about failure, just because it is something that culturally is very different. And Coca-Cola is a well-known brand, and they have failed a number of times. And this is just one example. They tried to introduce a new Coke many years ago, and they went out and they taste tested it, and they talked to people, and everybody said they'd love it. But then when they launched it, no one actually bought it. And so they had to pull it off the shelf, and it was a failure. But if you don't address and you don't embrace failure, then you're not really testing your limits. And so that's one thing that you should think about, is that entrepreneurs will fail. How can you help them to fail fast? So do your policies support or thwart? What's the friction on regulations? Is it too hard for people to start businesses? Do they have to pay too much in taxes that they can't put money towards their company? And what are your penalties for failure? In the US, we have pretty robust bankruptcy laws, which helps people if they put all of their money into a company and they fail. But in many countries, there's a cultural and just a taxation, a real economic penalty for failure. What are your incentives for them to be successful? And why does this matter? Because the impact of innovation is felt all over the world. Google was started out of actually it was a University of Maryland alum, Sergey Brin, started Google. And now we use Google anytime we talk about searching. The image on the top that is a pacemaker that was created out of a university. The magnetic resonance imaging, MRI, came out of university. And now I know that innovation is going to come for this current COVID pandemic that we're in, and the flu, all of these vaccines came out of these innovative ideas, and they needed an ecosystem around to help support them. So that's why this is important, because if the cure for cancer is sitting in one of our labs somewhere, I want to make sure that it has the opportunity to get out and to see the light of day. And that's why I do what I do. So tried to get through that quickly. I hope that was helpful. I think everybody has access to our slides. Thank you very much for letting me share.
Well, thank you so much, Julie. I've learned a lot about what you're doing now, and it was built on an amazing foundation. So thank you for your service when you were a public servant, and good luck with your new enterprises here. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So next on the docket, not to use a legal term, but I believe Mike Molnar, hopefully you're still with us on deck here.
Yes, I am.
Good. Well, Mike is another longtime colleague. People ask us, are you guys related to each other? And the answer is maybe. Maybe we're fifth cousins 6 times removed or something like that. But we're friends and colleagues. And Mike is in charge of an amazing, innovative enterprise that was launched. I'll let him, I guess, get into the chronology. But it's a network of innovation institutes that were initially funded by units of the federal government, some by the Department of Defense, by NIST, by other agencies. But then they're becoming self-sustaining according to plan. They're a great example of public-private partnerships. And I'm pretty familiar with most, if not all of them. And that's why I brought Mike on board, because I thought that they're an example that both developed and developing countries can look to and maybe learn from. So go ahead and take it over, Mike.
Oh, terrific. Thank you. And I don't know why my camera doesn't look like it's on. I even put a tie on for you, Larry, but yes, we aren't directly related, but thank you to my friend and colleague, Larry. We've been working together with the University of Michigan for quite some time. So let me try to flip over to some slides. I apologize because I'm at NIST and we are the keepers of the cybersecurity regs, and Zoom doesn't meet the NIST standards, so I can't run the Zoom app. And so I have to go through a browser, and sometimes that is a conflict. Firefox can't, okay. It's not letting me do this. Larry, do you have my slides?
Dr. Hanadi does, and if she's listening in,
Yes.
maybe.
Yes, Larry.
Yeah. Do you have Mike Molnar slides? I think he sent them in to us.
Yes, but he can share the screen. Why you ask us to share the screen?
I'm saying I can't share my screen right now. I don't know why.
No. The technical support will helping you to share screen. Go ahead, and I will ask the host to provide you with share screen.
So Mike, if you want to go ahead and, oh, good. They were up there for a second.
So is that visible?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, but my camera isn't. But okay, terrific.
Yes,
hey, I know we're running a little late, and I'm seeing 10:18, so I'll try to speed things up. In the summary, thank you to Larry to ask me to join. The summary of this is really, I wanted to highlight the importance of advanced manufacturing to innovation. I would assert that you can't spell innovation without manufacturing. The fourth manufacturing revolution is real, and it will fundamentally change the global economy. I wanted to share what the US federal government is doing. Our real key approach here in this space is to have industry-led public-private partnerships. And our national strategic plan, we have a quadrennial plan that came out in 2018. I'm part of the White House team that would be refreshing this plan starting next year. But if you look at our plan, it really is about three things: technology, people, and if you do those things right, you get the third, which is building ecosystems. So this is the talk, and it's pretty visual, so don't blink. I do want to go through a number of things, but really those are the key things. Since I saw that the other speakers had a bit of an introduction, we all wear a couple of hats, and I lead the NIST Office of Advanced Manufacturing. NIST is a part of the federal government and the Department of Commerce, the National Institute of Standards and Technology. Our role is to promote US innovation and industrial competitiveness. Our wheelhouse is measurement science, the standards body for the United States, and technology transfer. We are the federal lead for technology transfer. So this is a different view. If you see on the top right, that's a picture of part of the NIST main campus in Gaithersburg, Maryland, just north of Washington, D.C. It's about 600 acres, 60 some laboratory buildings. That tower in the background, that's where my NIST office is at. But this slide is to show you kind of a different view to emphasize how we work with collaboration. We have a number of joint institutes and center of excellence. So this is the footprint here. Besides the NIST main campus, and the middle one is the NIST Boulder campus. It's all about centers of excellence. Little fun fact, the one on the bottom right, that is the NIST facility at Fort Collins. We have the Time Lords, so we keep the master clocks, and that is synchronized, that's pinged by your computer, your cell phone, the GPS system, 16 billion times a day. People use NIST to synchronize it. You probably don't even realize it. It's either directly or indirectly, but the fun fact there is that that is the world's oldest operating radio station. Last year it celebrated its 100th year of operation. So if you have one of those things like a clock that says atomic clock, automatically synchronized, it's synchronized to the radio signal that's coming out of that center. So I just, I always find it fun to do a little fun fact. And if you're thinking about advanced manufacturing, there's really three parts at NIST. The NIST laboratory programs, Manufacturing USA, this is the program that I established and I lead today, and the Manufacturing Extension Partnership. So first, a bit about manufacturing and innovation and why I asserted up front that you can't spell innovation without manufacturing. It's really not about manufacturing or high tech. Manufacturing is high tech. And so there's two fundamental reasons. One of it is, even though it's, quote, only 12% of GDP, it has a huge economic multiplier, the highest economic multiplier effect of any sector. So that's very important for the economy. But this is the interesting side for innovation. A third of our economic growth is due to innovation and manufacturing. If you are a scientist or engineer, 2/3 of you are employed by manufacturing companies. 2/3 of the R&D spend, 70% of patents. So where innovation is happening is manufacturing. So that really is part of the key thing. And the other part, emphasizing that manufacturing is not a peanut butter spread, it really is clustered. So 2 quick slides. Where is manufacturing in the United States? Because it drives home again the cluster or ecosystem approach. It's really the Great Lakes region, North Carolina, California, and Texas. If you add all of these up and put US manufacturing on a boat somewhere, that would be the world's 18th largest economy all by itself. If you look at it from percentage, it really highlights that Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin, and such, those are the high intensity things. And if you drill down, it's because those states have multiple clusters, multiple ecosystems. This is the flip side. Jobs are important, and these are the states that have the highest impact related to manufacturing jobs. So it's incredibly important to these particular states. I want to emphasize here why the rules are changing. And in every revolution, there are winners and losers. The old technologies are getting replaced. They're disrupted by the new technologies. So many people have heard about this Industry 4.0, the fourth manufacturing revolution. This is a little chart to explain really what that is, that even Industry 1.0, it had a huge worldwide impact far beyond the home of, say, Birmingham, England, because it fundamentally changed economies and raised the standards of living. So notice on this, the cycles of innovation are happening faster than ever before. And I mean, Industry 3.0 was really the 70s and 80s. Industry 4.0 is about cyber physical system and the Internet of Things and networking. I'm grabbing 2 citations from the World Economic Manufacturing Forum, one about jobs, and this one is about technologies. Because if you can get wrapped up in the hype, and I like this as an explanation of those people that are involved in technology development. A standard way to approach this is the S-curve of technology maturation. And why this is, something beyond marketing is it's a number of these disruptive technologies of computing, of big data, analytics, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, quantum. They are reaching the peak or near the peak all at the same time. So it's really a story of convergence. And it's good to have convergence. But if you have convergence, but the economics aren't there, you can't form businesses. So the mashup on the right is just to show that smart sensors, the decrease in cost over the last decade, have dropped by 50%. The decrease in cost of processing has dropped by 60 times, not 60%, 60 times. The cost of bandwidth, 40 times. The cost of storage, 50 times. So this is enormous fuel beyond is driving the convergence of these critical technologies. And why is that important? Well, if you're thinking about ecosystems, if you're thinking about jobs of the future, this notion that many countries have is, well, manufacturing is over there. We don't make anything anymore. We're losing jobs. And in fact, if you're part of the old economy, old technology, yes, this came out, 2020 World Economic Forum on the future of jobs. There will be 85 million manufacturing jobs lost in the coming decade. There's also going to be 97 million new manufacturing jobs in these new areas. So hugely disruptive. And if you're part of these technologies, it's a growth area. If you're not, if you're part of the technologies getting disrupted, it is very, very disruptive, and your business will decline, or you may go out of business. So that's a moral imperative to at least be aware of these things. If you're talking about the technologies themselves and why The administration has identified these as part of the industries of tomorrow. These are really these technologies, and they are enablers, not only if an innovator is thinking about doing something related to that technology, but just for how you operate your business or how you launch your business. These are key enablers, and they're business opportunities for these developing. For existing companies, just unrelated, their product or services unrelated to these technologies, just using these technologies. This recent survey, it had profound effects on reducing labor costs, reducing injuries, growing new revenue streams. So it's a real valid reason why I'm arguing that everyone should be aware of what's happening here with the fourth manufacturing revolution. So two quick things. Well, how can you get help? A big part of this is just one example from the NIST laboratory programs. The gold standard for cybersecurity is the NIST cybersecurity framework. These are free, publicly available document. This 730-page, three-volume guide, it's the detailed cybersecurity implementation guide for manufacturers. Why am I emphasizing that? Because as the Internet of Things, as more and more things get added to, oh, your machine has all these smart sensors, let's stick it on the network. Wow, it's so much more productive. It's opening up doors for risk. And make no mistake, 99% of manufacturers in the United States are small manufacturers. They don't have full awareness of their cybersecurity risk. So this is an important thing. And who can you go to get help in this? Well, we have the National Network of Manufacturing Extension Partnership Centers. Our prior, I think it was Lynn speaking from Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech for the state of Georgia is the home of the Georgia MEP. So NIST is the federal sponsor of the MEP network, and they have a cybersecurity program, but they are also the place to go for free advice or free consulting, or if you want a bespoke solution, they will help you with your business. So, and suddenly I'm not moving. I want to turn to Manufacturing USA, which Larry mentioned, because MEP is about technology transfer of existing technologies. Manufacturing USA is about speeding up and de-risking these new technologies. It's all about this TRL 4 to 7, the applied research. The federal government invests over 150 billion, B with a B, in funding for basic science, basic research. That is a national good. What we want to do is to have a return on investment of those taxpayer dollars by speeding up and de-risking and getting it into the private sector. This little stylized chart is really to show that the goal of a manufacturing innovation center is not for the federal government to have the institute do research for the feds. It's really there to set up a neutral convening ground where industry and academia can collaborate effectively on game-changing, innovative projects. And so what are those projects? It's industry-led, industry picks them. It's a neutral collaboration space. When nearly 30 years in industry, it was hard for me to work with other companies. It would be impossible for me to do pre-competitive collaborative research with a competitor. Here, you can do these things because the feds have set up this neutral convening ground. Where we are today, this is very exciting. 2 new institutes were just added. Also, the program was reauthorized by Congress. Larry, in update, the federal government can continue federal support of centers after they've started up, presuming they meet performance goals. So an independent performance review is done, and we've already started renewing a number of centers. The 2 newest ones that just came online this month is in bioindustrial manufacturing with a location in St. Paul, Minnesota, and cybersecurity in manufacturing in Austin, Texas. So there are now 16 manufacturing innovation institutes. And if you take a look at those in total, of the 14 active, this is the results from last year. We now have over 2,000 member organizations. So for example, University of Michigan is 1 member organization. So that's one of those now over 2,000 members. Last year, 561 major collaborative research projects. I love that our 2/3 of the members are from industry, manufacturers, and more than 2/3 of those are small. And really, if you take a look at the snapshot, the 133 million in federal funds, the co-investment of non-federal, and most of this is from industry, it's running over a 2-to-1 match in co-investment. And that's because industry is recognizing real value. I want to close with the strategic plan in the future. This, again, if you go to the URL or just Google National Strategic Plan, it's on the White House. This is really 3 goals: new manufacturing technologies with 15 national objectives and 15 priority topics. The second is the manufacturing workforce, the skills. And if you do those 2 things right, it's all about clusters, about innovation clusters, ecosystems, and that's all about the manufacturing supply chains. So just to add a little bit to this, the administration really put this together into the industries of the future: artificial intelligence, quantum, advanced communications, advanced manufacturing. That's what's in the president's budget request, and that just got marked. So we're talking about what the feds will be funding in FY21, and both the House and the Senate have done their markups in the past week. So in terms of investments, these are the priorities going forward. And just to close here, this is such an exciting time for digital manufacturing because it's, again, the image of manufacturing. This is not the giant factories making that one thing. It's really the democratization of tools to design and make it. And I love the growth of commercial maker spaces and innovation centers. And it's really changing the rules. So to me, who are the future innovators and manufacturers? These are those people. If you can think it, you can design it. If you can design it, you can make it. And that to us is what manufacturing is all about. So with that, Larry, thank you so much. Our website is manufacturingusa.com. We also have the federal-wide portal, manufacturing.gov. And I'm Mike Molnar from NIST.gov, unrelated to Larry, but gosh, we all wish we were. Thank you, Larry.
Well, thank you for that. And thank you for your presentation. It's very inspiring. It makes me want to go right out on the shop floor and start making things. So, I'm glad that you mentioned the MEP program. That's been a long-standing program, and I'm very familiar with it. And I think for the first time today, I heard the technology readiness level scale. I'm glad you brought that up. And I'll just add to that, there's the technology readiness scale. Is your technology ready to be manufactured? And that's a manufacturing readiness scale, which needs to run somewhat concurrently with the technology readiness scale. So, and then you also have the investment readiness scale. Is it investment ready? Is it mature enough to attract investment? And so those 3 things are important. And maybe in next year's conference on innovation, creativity, and entrepreneurship, we can talk a little bit more about those. So thank you very much, Mike and Julie, Ed, and Lynn. This kind of ends this roundtable session. I think I brought us in fairly closely to on time, so I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Hanadi. And thanks again for everyone who presented, and thank you all for listening.
Thank you so much, Professor Larry, and thanks for all the presenters. You are really the think tank for our conference. We are honorable to have you in this conference. This conference is a largest event gathering more than 80 practitioners from around 20 countries. And we are really appreciate your potential and your participations in our conference. Great thanks to Professor Larry to make it in a very good manner and smoothly sessions. Thank you so much. And now we will handling the second sessions. Thank you, Professor Larry.
You're welcome, thank you.
Mike. Jeff? I think is Jeff there? Larry, did you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Yes, you can invite Jeff. Jeff, it's the next sessions. Would you mind please to hold this session just for a moment till Professor Michael Postlers is chairing the session? Just we've been in contact with him. I don't see him in the listed there.
Sure.
You can welcoming the Jeff and Dr. Mohammed Abdul Latif. It's the first presenter. Dr. Mohammed.
So while we're waiting, this is Larry Molnar again, and going back, I guess, to the last 4 or 5 presenters that we had, I thought there was a good representation about programs that that help the entrepreneur and the innovator. And although there was a bit of a focus on universities, the universities that did present are actually conducting programs that have practitioners on the staff at the universities who then work within the ecosystem. So they're really institutions that are serving the ecosystem. And I thought it was interesting from 2 of them, Carmen Quigg from the University of Michigan and Ed Morrison from Strategic Doing, both talked about the communities and how the ecosystem really resides in the community and is a very diverse, dynamic, or I guess you might be able to use the terminology of biology and say organic type of activity and actually as you put the different components of the ecosystem together, it becomes something that takes on a life of its own, and it's not any one person or any one institution or organization. It's the sum of its parts. And I thought that.
Excuse?
Yes.
Yes, Professor Mike, it's online. You need to say hi to you to start the sessions.
Good, good. Well, then I'll turn it over to them, and I'm sure that
Yes,
we'll have much more interest.
Yes, we hope so. Professor Mike?
I don't see him online.